get into the 250-hour review, I wanted to just go over real quick maintenance that I do routinely to my engine every 5, 10, 15, 20 hours that I've done over the last 260 hours, so you can get an idea of just things that I do. By no means is this the only way to maintain your engine, but these are things that are not necessarily in the manual, but just some things that I do periodically to ensure that my engine keeps running well. Every flight, of course, I do a pre-flight inspection. I won't go over that because that's very particular to each person and things that they like to do, but of course, pre-flight inspection. Every 5 hours, I clean the spark plug cap, the inside of the spark plug cap. I'll show pictures of that. And I get some carbon buildup. So I clean that out with a Q-tip and alcohol every 5 hours, about every other flight, just to make sure that I'm not getting any sort of interruption in the spark or the transmit path for that. Every 5 to 10 hours, I check the spark plug. So I'll pull the spark plug, check its color. That's about every 3 or 4 flights. I'll do that. Every 25 hours, I change my gear oil in my gearbox. So you probably see in my previous video, I had the bearings wiped after about 180, 200 hours. So every 25 hours, I just decided just to change the gearbox oil, just as preventative maintenance. Maybe I'll get more life out of those bearings if I do that. I also change the spark plug every 25 hours. And I just switched from a screw top tip to a solid tip. I noticed with the screw top tips, sometimes those loosen up, so I decided to go with the solid tip variety from the NGK. Every 50 hours, now a lot of this is in the manual, but I'll just reiterate. Every 50 hours, I clean the head of the piston, clean the top of the piston, replace the head gasket. I also do that. Rebuild the carb, so go through, rebuild the carburetor, clean it all out. Replace all the carburetor gaskets, of course. Every 100 hours, I rebuild the carb again, and then replace all of the fuel system. So I'll go through all the way from the clunk in the tank all the way to the carburetor. All new hose, new bulb, everything. The whole fuel system gets replaced. I also will change the piston ring and bearing, needle bearing, circlips. That's all called out in the manual. I'll do that every 100 hours as well. I'll also, every 100 hours, clean the gas tank. So I'll pull the gas tank off. You get some sediment at the bottom. I just get all that cleaned out so it's ready to go. So again, that's every 100 hours. So these little things I do, I think, have done me well. The engine right now is about 260 hours on it. It's running great. I have had a few issues, but nothing substantial. I'll go over some of the issues I've had since the 200-hour video that I put out about 6 months back, actually more like 4 months back. One thing I did do recently at about 230 hours is I changed my oil to Dominator. No, not that Dominator. This Dominator right here, AMSOIL Dominator 2-stroke. I got a tip from a friend of mine that they had a friend that had a top 80 engine, and at their 100-hour opened it up, and I saw pictures and it looked brand new. I mean, it almost looked like it was. So I asked what oil they were using, and this was it, AMSOIL Dominator. One of the criticisms I've had with my engine over the last couple of years is I do get a lot of buildup on my head and piston every 50 hours when I'm cleaning it. There is quite a bit of buildup. I'll show pictures. So it's always been kind of something on my mind, like, am I using the right oil? I know in the manual I'm using 66-to-1, Motul 800, and for 230 hours, it's what I used, and it's been great. Not too much bad to say about it, but I figured I'd try something else. So I've been running the Dominator for about 25 hours now. I'm going to do another video showing a 30-hour comparison, 30 hours on a head and piston with Motul 800, and then 30 hours on Dominator. You can see for yourself. But so far, when I've pulled my plug, I've looked at it, and there's a lot less, almost zero buildup with the Dominator. And I think the main reason why this burns cleaner is because of the flash point is lower. It's at like 212 degrees, 215 degrees, whereas the flash point on Motul 800 is over 400 degrees. So I think with the Atom 80, I don't think it runs hot enough to really burn off that oil. That's just a guess. Again, I'm not a chemist or a chemical engineer to really prove that to you, but just anecdotally from seeing pictures of people running AMSOIL Dominator, it just seems like there's less buildup. And why is that important? I believe, especially with the buildup that I had on the top of my piston, there was a lot of granules at the top of the carbon. And I'm afraid if those get down low in the engine and then come back up with the piston stroke, you get scuffing on the inside of your cylinder, and then you could really cause some damage that way. So I'd like to not have as much buildup as I was having, and it's not a carburation issue. I have my carburetor set at like the lowest recommended setting. I get good fuel burn. My cylinder head temperatures are right in there, about 250 degrees. So I really think it was the oil causing that buildup. So again, at 200, at the 30-hour point with Dominator, I'll make an update video. But now let's go out to the garage and we'll continue with the 250-hour review. Okay, so what's happened in the last 50 hours? Well, other than getting this really cool decal, thanks to one of my flying buddies on my prop, the only things I really had an issue with, you may notice that the ends of my exhaust look real shiny. Well, that's not because I clean it well, it's because I've had to replace them. Specifically, the tip. Actually, just recently, in the last 5 hours, my tip, I noticed a lot of oil coming out of it. And then when I looked really closely, the whole weld was broken. I'll show you some pictures of that as well. You might have seen in the last video, I had some leakage coming out of here. I had some RTV on it, and it held up. But I figured while I was taking apart the exhaust to rebuild it and put new silencing material in it, I might as well replace the elbow too. I didn't have to, but I did. I definitely had to replace the tip. And then while I was at it, opened up the whole exhaust. I repacked it and put new silencing material in it. So that's really the major, since 200 hours, the major issue I had with the motor. The only other thing I've done, you'll see here on my airbox, I have a Velcro strap. And actually, I think this is made for the Moster 185. But a friend of mine had an engine out recently, and it was due to the airbox coming off, which isn't a common problem with the Atom 80, although I have heard that it has happened and firsthand seen it happen. So anyway, I put this safety strap on and got that from Sky Sports. So thanks to those guys. And yeah, that's really the only major issues in the last 50 hours. Again, the silencer. Other than that, she's been running great. I'll take you over to the old silencer so I can show you what that looks like. So here's pieces of my old silencer. Here's the elbow I was talking about. You can see some of the RTV still on it. And, you know, right with that black, that's JB Weld right there. I was having a little bit of leakage out of there. So I figured while I was at it, why not replace that? Because this for sure failed. You can see that weld. That's not supposed to be by itself. This here attaches to it. This is where the exhaust comes out. But anyway, what I think happened was this baffle failed. So this weld around the baffle that's supposed to be connected here failed. So then after that failed, it was literally only connected by the very end. So then over time that wore out and then broke this weld. So again, it had over 245 hours on the exhaust. So I figure I got my money's worth out of it. So yeah. Well, there you have it. 260 hours, still going strong. You know, a year ago, I would have said, with this many hours on the engine, I'd be looking to maybe get rid of it, but really, I can't think of any reason to right now. We'll see how it keeps going. We will catch up with you at 300 hours. Again, I'll make that video on the Dominator oil and comparison. So anyway, till next time, again, thanks for tuning in, checking out my videos. If you like it, please thumbs up, share it, and subscribe if you like on future videos on the Atom 80. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.